carry the scars of many loves and her tatches. The story I'm about to share is of an older man who, in search of a new purpose in life, began dating a woman much younger than himself. He was captivated by her enthusiasm and intelligence. She was 20 years younger, full of life, and possessed a beauty he thought he would never see again. He did not suspect that this radiance hid a shadow that only he would notice. Over time, he immediately understood that this relationship would becalanging friends reacted. Young people lair prime in him, and he had his own reservations. But at 70 years, old his shot still beat strongly, and he wanted to prove it to himself, even though he managed to conquer and keep a young woman. His hesitation turned into obsession. He wanted to give everything as if it were everything was almost perfect. The last love story of his life gave him a new lease on life, but the price to pay was enormous, and Alm realized it later. At first, everything was almost perfect. She showered him with kind words, praise, and compassion. He felt strong and virile, rediscovering a youth thought was long gone. She knew exactly how to seduce him and has succumbed to each of her gazes and movements. He went to great lengths to satisfy her, treating her as if she were royalty, but what he did not realize was that she began to impose minordmans, always with that air of superiority that he mocked for. Pure attraction. The changes in her behavior become more and more evident over time, subtle humiliations disguised his changes in her behavior. Comments began to appear. She told him he should take better care of himself because people's age should not have such physical limitations. At first he tried to laugh, believing it was a joke, but the frequency increased and the laughter began to fade. She never stopped telling him he was too old for her. The final straw was when she focused her criticisms on his performance. In bed, Hugo had always believed he could bring affection and emotional satisfaction. Found himself facing harsh and pointed criticisms. She asserted that he was slow, predictable, and incapable of satisfying her like a younger man would. He tried to convince her that age does not limit a person's ability to make others happy, but her comments were to cutting to be ignored. He then remembered would try to argue the power he exercised, rather his method. He assured her that despite his lack of youthful strength, he knew how to delight her in a special unique way through his devotion and courage. He said it with a passion and confidence. How few younger men could match Buten's. If honoring Inghing, Shima Kotwood. She considered a desperate attempt by an old man to be useful. This mockery tore his heart apart. He felt humiliated but tried to convince himself that it was a test of patience and resilience. He hoped that by being understanding, she would eventually see his value in devotion. However, each of the Stoicism men pushed him to devalue himself further, and he began to perceive himself as unimportant and of little value in the eyes of a young woman. For anyone witnessing this, he made a decision. It may seem simple to condemn his decision to stay, yet anyone who has lived a long time understands that love, especially in its most terrible form, can take us hostage and force us to accept things we would never have tolerated otherwise. He was no longer just bound by the youth of the young woman, but also by the idea that he could prove himself to someone who seemed adorable. To see beyond his age. One night, following a dispute that made him feel even smaller, he made a decision. He looked at himself in the mirror and saw a 70-year-old man with wrinkles of old age on his face and the weight of experience in his eyes. He recognized it. Self-love must speak louder. Bakaza could not live in the shadow of approval from someone who would never accept him for who he was. He faced her calmly, then decided to face her calmly. Indicated that he was ready to end the relationship because, no matter how much he loved her, he could not continue it. Don't be humiliated. She looked at him in astonishment, as if she did not expect them to have the courage to do it. At that moment he regained some of the dignity he had lost with each of hair marks. The conversation was unpleasant but liberating. He felt like he was finally acting his age, not in the sense of fragility, but in the sense of wisdom. Remembered all the years he had lived, experiences he had, and the value he still possessed, no matter how many wrinkles he had or his age upon leaving her house, heartfelt, a sense of relaxation he had not known for months. Recognize that it is sometimes VTO, except that not everyone will understand the value we bring, a specialist Hosi, who only see the surface. Hera recognized that by submitting to humiliation, he had lost himself, yet by freeing himself, he regained not only his self-esteem, but also the tranquility of love that only he could offer. The following days were difficult to live through. Loneliness returned, but it was a clean, dignified loneliness without the burden of having to prove something to anyone. He realized that even with her he remained a man of value, someone who embodied the pure spirit of what love is. This self-love a few months later allowed him to move forward. The Sevant taught him that not all young people deserve to sacrifice their dignity, and that true love is one that accepts, respects, and cherishes all people regardless of their physical abilities or age. A few months later, had discovered new joys in life. Hera connected with old acquaintances, places he had always wanted to see, and rediscovered activities he had abandoned. He recognized that his value did not depend on the approval of a younger woman, but rather on the peace Heffernan looking. He had abandoned himself. Each wrinkle on his face tells a story, and each gray hair marks a memory. Understood that aging brings wisdom to know what is truly important. They no longer needed to sacrifice himself to satisfy others. Instead, he became more interested in his own satisfaction. This anecdote serves as a reminder to other older people who have the same doubts. The desire for love is understandable, but it should never come at the expense of inner serenity. Lessons are learned over time, and only those who have lived a long time understand the importance of preserving their dignity in the face of the deceptive promises of youth and in hindsight. He realized that this relationship had been a precious learning opportunity. It was a lesson in acceptance and the importance of putting Goni's own principles first. No matter the criticism, he learned that to be loved, he first had to love himself completely with all his flaws and strengths. For him, ending their relationship meant reclaiming his identity. Many see in this story an example of the importance of self-love even when everything around seems to conspire against our confidence. Only the value of dignity older people should see this film because they understand the value of dignity. He discovered that a man's value determined by his integrity in face of adversity, not by his age. And it is this integrity that turns every wrinkle into a symbol of wisdom. Based on this story, I would like to propose 5 lessons for older people who have relationships. The first lesson is that, as tempting as it may be to recreate the glory of youth with someone younger, it is the essential to keep your feet on the ground and not get lost in the first lesson, the illusion. Many people like that character end up devoting their time and energy to someone who does not truly appreciate them. The desire to prove that tone still has vigor and capabilities can become a trap, forcing us to accept the belief that we would never have tolerated at other stages of life. Love's hold not be a testing ground, but an environment of respect and mutual acceptance. The second lesson story teaches us is the value of self-love. By accepting costly comments about his performance in age, he felt like he was giving up a part of himself. He thought that tolerating or criticisms in the name of love was an noble act, but in reality, he was sacrificing his dignity. Loving oneself is a commitment that must precede any relationship, because forgetting God's own value is to expose oneself to contempt of others. Recognizing that we deserve respect and affection is the foundation of any healthy relationship. The third lesson is to have courage to free oneself and accept loneliness as a kind of peace, even if it is only temporary. When he decided to end this relationship, it was more than just a breakup. It was a rehabilitation for himself. He chose the most difficult but third lesson also the most valuable path. Choosing to be alone rather than continuing to be humiliated is a sign of strength. Sometimes Loneliness is a place of restructuring self-esteem, and not a punishment. In truth, he gave himself the opportunity to regain his inner calm thought no one could take away from him. Third lesson is that with age, our experiences and memo become true treasures, and those who do not recognize this only lock attempts into superficiality wrinkles gray hair. The fourth lesson, Signoff time, tells a story and offers a learning opportunity. He understood that he didn't need to model himself after an image of pristine youth because what he had was much deeper. Those who seek the superficial will never appreciate the value of accumulated with. Therefore, it is useless to try to please someone who does not understand who where. The fifth lesson is that being attentive to a partner's needs, particular physical closeness, is the fifth lesson. Show of affection. He thought that even if he no longer had the physical vigor of his youth, he could express his devotion and desire through other means. This demonstration of affection and devotion often shows a man willing to put his partner's needs bear his own pride. However, respect must be mutual. Offering a certain closeness is a sign of interest, but should not be interpreted as an obligation or a cause for embarrassment. In this example, he learned that no matter how hard he tried to please her, his efforts must be recognized. The lesson he draws from this is that true closeness requires respect and consideration, not judgments or criticisms. If you were touched by theory and think these teachings can help others, please subscribe to the channel and like the video, share this message with others who might need to reflect on value of dignity and self-love. The greatest life lessons come from the stories of people who have lived long enough to understand what is truly important. 7 signs women see you as weak and how to fix them. Did you know that women can instinctively pick up on subtle behaviors that show weakness? Psychology shows that these unnoticed cues shape how they see you, often affecting their level of respect and attraction. A lot of guys unknowingly show these signs thinking they're being considerate, but in reality, they're just lowering their presence. In this video, uncover 7 signs that make women see you as weak, and most importantly, how you can fix them to become a more confident and desirable man. Welcome back to Stoic Monarch, where we dive deep into Stoic principles to guide you towards becoming a stronger, more self-assured man. In today's video, we look over 7 ways women see you as weak, and most men didn't even realize that these are subtle behaviors that can affect how women perceive your strength, confidence, and overall presence. By understanding and correcting these mistakes, you can become a more desirable and respected man. But first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. And let's aim for 1,000 likes on this one. Let's get started. 1. You constantly seek her validation. Confidence is one of the most attractive traits a man can have, yet many guys unknowingly mess this up by always seeking validation from the woman there into. If every decision you make depends on her approval, whether it's what to wear, where to eat, or how toked, you're sending the message that Yolik's self-assurance while asking for Ronput is normal. Relying on her opinions too much makes you look uncertain. Imagine this: you're out on a date, and instead of choosing what y'all want to eat, you ask her, do you think I should get the pasta or the steak? It may seem like a small thing, but constantly deferring to her for little decisions can be a big red flag. Women are drawn to men with a strong sense of self. If you always look to her for assurance, she might start feeling like she's leading the relationship, which can hurt her attraction to you. The fix: trust yourself more, make decisions confidently, then small ones. Women respect men want what they want and stand by it to you. Avoid confrontation at all costs. Coast being agreeable and avoiding unnecessary conflict. It can be a good thing, but if you refuse to stand up for yourself when it counts, you come off as weak. Women notice when a guy wants to address issues, especially if he's being distracted. If you're the type to just lead things slide when you're clearly being mistreated, it shows you don't have backbone, and that's not attractive picture. This: you spent hour planning the perfect date, and she spends the whole time on her phone instead of addressing Jet. You just laugh it off or pretend. This doesn't bother you. You might think you're being chill, but she might see it as a lack of self-respect. Women admire men who set boundaries. If you let us respect slide. She respects you less. Standing up for yourself doesn't mean being aggressive. It means calmly setting your limits. If she does something that bothers you, address it directly, but in a respectful way. A woman who respects you will respond positively to your confidency. Key here is self-respect. If something feels wrong, don't hold it in. To avoid conflict, speak up and don't tolerate consistent. Women don't want a man they can walk all over. They want a man who values himself. 3. You overshare your insecurities too soon. Being emotionally pan is great, but there's a difference between healthy vulnerability and oversharing your insecurities to the point that it feels like a burden. Women appreciate honesty, but they're not looking to be your therapist, especially early on. Imagine this: it's your second date, and instead of getting to know each other, naturally you start chin-loading all your fears and anxiety. Tell her how you struggle with public speaking, how you hate your job, and how you've never felt good enough in past relationships. While she might have listened, deep down she may feel overwhelmed. Women respect men who acknowledge their struggles but are actively working on them. If you're constantly seeking reassurance from her about her self-doubt, she might see you as emotionally fragile. Instead of venting your insecurities, focus on talking about your aspirations and growth. When you talk about challenge from them as things you're working through, not as things that define youth. Fix. Be mindful of when and how you share your vulnerabilities. Emotional depth is attractive, but only when it's balanced, said with strength and self-improvement. Show her that you recognize your struggles, but you're not defined by them. For you try too hard to impress her. There's a fine line between confidence and desperation, and a lot of guys unknowingly cross it by trying too hard to impress a woman. Whether it's constantly bragging about your accomplishments, exaggerating stories, or overly highlighting your successes, trying too hard comes across insecurity. For example, if you're on a date and keep mentioning how much money you make, how many connections you have, how amazing your achievements, Aresh is going to sense that you're overcompensating. Women appreciate 6, but what's more attractive is a man who's secure enough in himself. Thoth doesn't need to constant self-promote. The key is being authentic instead of proving your worth with words. Let your actions and confidence speak for themselves. Be yourself and trust that your value will be recognized. In a 5. You lose emotional control during disagreements. Are a natural part of any relationship, but how you handle them speaks volumes about your emotional strength. If you're quick to anger, get overly defensive, or react impulsively, it sends a clear message that you lack self-control. Women instinctively respect men who can navigate conflict with composure rather than aggression. Think about it. If a minor misonesting makes you raise your voice, slam doors, or storm off, it signals immaturity. A man who can't regulate his emotions in small disagreements will likely struggle with bigger challenges in life. Women are drawn to men who can remain steady even in stressful situations, cause emotional stability equals sickery. If she feels that your moods are unpredictable, she may start to see as weak rather than strong. On Theo, as true confidence is shown through patience and rationality instead of reacting impulsively. Take a step back, pause, breathe. Think. If she disagrees with you, don't take it as an attack. Instead of proving your right, focus on understanding her perspective and calmly stating your own. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. It means mastering them. A strong man expresses himself firmly, but without losing his temper. He knows that his worth isn't defined by proving a point in the heat of the moment. The next time a disagreement arises, pay attention to how you react. Are you letting your emotions control you? Or are you in control of them? The man who can stay calm under pressure earns not only respect, but also Admiration 6. You apologize excessively. When it's not your fault, there's nothing wrong with saying, I'm sorry when you've actually done something wrong. In fact, taking responsibility for your mistakes is a sign of strength. But when you apologize excessively, especially for things that aren't your fault, you send a signal of insecurity and self-doubt. Women, notice when a man is too eager. Topley's constantly backtracking just to avoid conflict. If you're always saying sorry for bothering you, sorry for having an opinion, or sorry for asking, it creates the impression that you're seeking approval rather than standing firm in who you are. Over apologizing makes it seem like you lack confidence. Your own words and actions. Imagine you express your thoughts on a topic and she disagrees. If your immediate reaction is to apologize and change your stance, she will sense weakness. Women respect men who can hold their ground without being arrogant. You can acknowledge someone's feelings without apologizing for existing. Instead of saying, I'm sorry for speaking my mind, simply say, I see your point, but I stand by my opinion to fix this. Be mindful of your apologies. Ask yourself, I actually do something wrong? If not, place unnecessary apologies with more confident statements. A man who values himself doesn't feel the need to constantly apologize for his presence. Eve, you put her on a pedestal and neglect your own life. It's natural to admire a woman you like, but when you start treating her like she's above you, prioritizing her over your own goals, friendships, and self-respect, you weaken your own position. Women may enjoy attention, but they don't want to be worried. If she senses that you're making her the center of your world while neglecting your own purpose, she will start to lose respect for you. A strong man has his own mission. He doesn't cancel his plans just because she texts, doesn't abandon his ambitions. Just to be more available. When a woman sees that you have a life you're passionate about, she respects you more because she knows can't manipulate. You imagine Timeno immediately drops everything themament. She calls always eager to please if other enjoys a presence but maintains his own routine, hobbies, and goals. Who do you think she will respect more? Women are naturally drawn to men with purpose and direction. To fix this, shift your mindset. Your life should never revolve around another persona. It should be built on your own values, growth, and success. Prioritize your goals, maintain your independence, and remember that you are the prize. When you carry yourself with that confidence, she will admire you more, not less. A man's strength isn't in how loud he speaks, but in how deeply he commands respect. Every action you take sends a message about your value. If you constantly seek approval, avoid standing up for yourself, lose emotional control, you're telling the world that you lack inner strength. But imagine the difference when you walk into a room knowing exactly who you are. A man who doesn't beg for validation, tolerate disrespect, and doesn't lose control in difficult moments. That's the kind of man women admire and respect. That's the kind of men you should strive to be. If you found this video valuable, hit the like button, drop a comment, and share it with someone new who needs to hear this. Your journey to self-mastery starts now. Stay strong, stay stoic, and I'll see you in the next tone.